Welcome to Embracing Infinity, exploring the infinite oneness in the space of love and truth. Host Jennifer Rose is an international spiritual medium, healer, channeler, mentor, and transformational guide. Her focus is encouraging individuals to know themselves within the lens of their divine heart and highest potential, to evolve within the frequency of love and peaceful harmony. Now, here's your host, Jennifer Rose.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Embracing Infinity on the Sacred Spiral Network. I'm Jennifer Rose, and happy Friday to everybody. I hope you are all having a wonderful day so far as we go into a beautiful weekend ahead. So really excited to have my special guest, Suri Sawyer, back on Embracing Infinity. She was very loved and very well received several months ago when she was on the show. So I'm very excited to have her back with us because she has so many beautiful gifts to share with all of us here today. A couple of quick announcements, if y'all wouldn't mind sharing, tagging, commenting, following, and subscribing over on YouTube. We would so greatly appreciate it, as we love to give back to all of you. So thank you very much. We would love a follow to Kelly and to the Sacred Spiral Network to help her keep growing, and to my page and over on YouTube. We would so appreciate. So thank you for the little hearts on the posts and the comments and the shares. It helps to keep things flowing so that we can reach more people with the love and the magic and the help and the community and the friendship, just to keep that love keeping growing. So thank you for all of that. A few other announcements. This Sunday, I am hosting my spiritual Sunday service for the love of spirit. It's every 2 weeks, and our guest medium is Jackie McLeish over from the UK in Scotland. And we're so excited to be having her on. She's a very prestigious, well-respected medium, and we're so happy that she's going to be joining for the love of spirit for the first time. And our very well-loved Fran Pierce will be doing her poetry, which everybody loves and adores so very much. So we're very excited about that. And you can sign up for that on my website, www.mediumjenniferrose.com. And also next week, Kelly will be back with the Psychic Hour and the Numerology Hour Wednesday and Friday. So be on the lookout for that. She'll be posting that soon. And in 2 weeks, Kelly and I will be doing an in-person event in Tustin, California. And so for those of you who are in the area, we would love to see you. We will be doing a mediumship demonstration in the afternoon. It's going to be lots of fun, and we'll be giving messages to participants in our audience. So we would love to see you. It's so much fun to get to do some in-person events and get to see people in person off of Zoom and give those hugs and well wishes to each other. So that will be a lot of fun. We hope you'll join us. In addition, next weekend, so the in-person event is in 2 weeks. Next weekend, I am part of the Transcendental Retreat. I'll be posting that shortly to get that fresh in the feed for you all. And I will be doing a talk on transformation on Saturday. I believe it's at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. But that will be posted just for clarity as well. But it's a 3-day retreat. It's a very low cost. And when I post it, there will be a coupon code there for you as well to save some additional money. But it's 3 days of beautiful spiritual practitioners sharing a lot of different classes and gifts and readings. So be on the lookout for that. You don't want to miss that. And if you're subscribed to my newsletter, it's been posted in there regularly as well. So you can subscribe to my newsletter over on my website, and it'll keep you updated on all of my events. So thank you for letting me give all that to you as well. I just want to stop and just say hi to everybody who's joined us. And hello, Patty. Nice to see you, darling. How are you doing? And there's our friend Pierce. Hello. And Mark, great to see you too. And there's Mr. Ronnie. Good to see you, Ronnie. Christina's here. They're knocking on the wall. So Spirit's saying hi to all of you. So that's really exciting. Hi, Christina. Christina, so happy to see you, Suri. She'll be on shortly, just a few more minutes. And there's Jeffrey over Abani, hi, happy November to you too. It is the 1st of November, a new month, 2 months to go out of the year. So let's get this rest of the year out with a bang of lots of love and making the most of it. Jennifer McCormick, great to see you back again too. And there's our Lynn. Hi, Lynn, good to see you. Good morning to you. No, it's morning here. It's evening in the UK. It's only 7 hours there because their time change was last weekend. So we're a little off kilter with that. But this Sunday, I think we'll be well with the world again when our times are back to 8 hours. So it's always throws us for a little bit of a loop, but hey, it's fun. It keeps us on our toes. I want to say hi to Angela as well. Hi, Angela and Marie Claire. So great to see you all. Thank you all for being here today. So I have a very appropriate little topic to cover before we bring Suri on, and that is yesterday was Halloween. I know in America we really love that holiday, and maybe more than some of the other places celebrate it too. But it's a big deal here. People go all out with the decorations on their front lawn, with the costumes. The costume stores are open till like almost midnight, and there's big long lines, and people get really, really excited. And so I found myself in there as well. And I noticed a couple of things and put it together with what I already know is that there's these themes that you have when you go to the costume stores of different parts that you can play, kind of like if you were an actor and you got to be, an actor for a day, but you got to kind of express something that is in your consciousness or in the collective consciousness with full permission. And there is something very freeing and liberating about that too. So I noticed, a few different themes. There's the scary theme, of course, and there's the funny. A lot of funny costumes were there. A lot of sexy costumes were there. A lot of costumes going off of like movies and whatever's like really popular in the theater right there too. And then kind of like the romantic, medieval Renaissance-y, king, queen, that kind of element too. So they had all these different kinds of elements, and it was really representative of kind of like the themes and the archetypes of our, existence, of what it's like to be in this physical reality here as well. And so it gives people a chance to express these parts with, like I said, kind of like full permission and just have fun with it too. And so there is a blessing in that, I might want to add, because we are fulfilling parts of self perhaps that don't get a chance to be expressed in a way that's just fun and neutral and without any kind of judgment, right? Dog costumes too. Yes, Patty. Oh, that is so fun. People do love to dress up their dogs in costumes. There are so many cute ones, and that is that's a very heart uplifting experience to see the dogs. People do the coolest stuff, I have to say. I think with the kitty cats too, right? And so you may remember or you may not remember, and that's okay. In a previous show when I was speaking, we were talking about kind of different parts of self coming out, sometimes when we're triggered or just based on the environment that we're in or who we're in, and how the self is very multidimensional, and how we're always kind of shifting into different parts of self, much more than we realize. But I used the metaphor, the analogy of like a closet of clothes, right? And the stuff you have right in the front of your closet, this is kind of like the core parts of your personality that most people get to see and know you as. And those would be the outfits that you most often pick out. And then there's those ones kind of in the background, like way off to the side and in the corner, and you may only use those for certain seasons or for special occasions, right? And some of those outfits you may feel like you never want to wear, but yet they're there and you don't get to throw them away when it comes to our personality, right? So sometimes we may pull out an outfit that will come out, say, when we're very stressed or triggered, or our nervous system is in the best shape. And then we go, who was that, right? And that is something I just wanted to take a minute to pause and look at, because we're pretty good at embracing, our core self. And we're pretty good at embracing other parts of self that, like, that uh, New Year's Eve gown that you have in the closet that you're waiting to wear, that's something sparkly and shimmering, or that warm, fluffy coat, and you only get to wear that a few times a year because it needs to be for like a special occasions for the appropriate. But I would say, hey, if you're home, wear it anyways for fun for you, right? But then there's these other ones that kind of would be likened to some of the costumes you might see in the Halloween store, say like the scary ones, right? And when those parts show up for you, what do we do with that? Are we able to give love to every outfit in our closet, right? And of course, we keep continuing to work with our own self development, our own integration, our own healing. But it's really easy to love this part of the closet. It's harder to love those few things way off in the corner that pop out sometimes when we're triggered. But if we can give that unconditional love, if we can give that unconditional, non judgmental approval that it's there, that within the consciousness that we are in, which is duality and full of contrast, can we give that love? And therefore, maybe it won't have the same charge to impact us as much. And then in future interactions, we can hold better responses. How does that land for you all? Do you feel that like spaciousness that kind of just opened up there, and that kind of, right? So when you feel that kind of like, that little breath, it's like, oh, that's beautiful, because there's a wholeness to that. And so I'm hoping this might be resonating for you and landing for you. And then I also would like to leave you with is that if we have opportunities, not just on Halloween, to embrace parts of self, um, find other healthy ways to do that. So, for instance, we do have that kind of like primal desire as human beings, as the sort of the earthy animal part of us, right? To experience kind of like certain kinds of fears and dangers and things like that. So we could allow ourselves to see a scary movie. We could allow ourselves, without judgment, we could allow ourselves to see something with, a lot of suspense. We could allow ourselves to say, go on a roller coaster. It'd be like really scary, right? Right. And some people love it, and then some people are scared of it. But do things that are out of your normal comfort zone so that you can feel more open, more authentic, more and have more fun in life too. When we can open up to life having more fun and to having more experiences that are a little bit different from what we're used to. Maybe it's travel, maybe getting out of your normal, if you're able to and can afford it and can do that, but be open to it, and maybe the universe can help you manifest I just got a knock on the wall. And manifest the funds that you can be able to say, I'm open to this change, and I would love to express parts of self through travel, and put that to the universe, put that to your own soul, and see what happens if things can line up for you to help create that to become a dream come true for you. So think about that, something to think about, of finding, healthy outlets to embrace, all of the consciousness, all of the contrast, the light and the dark in a healthy way, so that you can feel more open and expansive. You can feel more wholeness. You can feel more non-judgment for yourself and for other people as well. And what does that do? It elevates us into the ascension, which is that very high expression of unconditional love and compassion, because the great divine spirit holds it all in compassion and non judgment in a way that's hard for us to understand sometimes. And that's okay too. But we can reach those levels with these types of practices that allow us to be more authentically us. So, with that, I will say thank you for listening. I hope that might resonate or land or give you a little something to think about. And I have so much love for all of you, and I'm so grateful that you are here today with me. I'm going to stop and take a quick break and say hello. I want to say hello to Courtney, who's come on. Hi, Courtney. Good to see you. Hi, Bernie. Hi, Michael, Christopher, and Colin. Well, my UK friends here made it. I was worried about the time difference, but y'all made it too. And there's Miss Marion Frisbee. Good evening, good evening. And Michael Zinn is here. Hello, Michael. Michael did a great show last night. Y'all want to catch the recording over on his page or on the live stream of consciousness. It was a really, really fun show. Okay, with that, I'm so excited to have our special guest, Suri Sawyer, coming on. She is a psychic healer and has a really expansive knowledge to offer us all of here today. And we are going to be talking about playing in the projection field. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And I really feel like this is going to be very illuminating, enlightening for us, and help us to connect some dots of other ideas and things that we've been hearing out there from somebody who's really well versed in it. So let's bring on Miss Suri Sawyer. Come on, Suri.
Hey. Hello,
hey, beautiful.
It's so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being back again. We so appreciate you. And we had so much fun last time that you were here, and we did the polarity mapping, which of course is bringing, that the alchemy of the good and the bad and the light and dark, how you worked with that too. And everybody loved it so much. So I'm so grateful that you were willing to come back again and share more of your wisdom and gifts with us here today, Suri.
Thank you for having me. It's a joy to be here. Yes, more alchemy, more alchemy with the projection field. Hi, Jennifer McCormick.
There we go. Yay. Really quick, would you be able to, for anybody who's new here and hasn't gotten to know you from last time, can you share a little bit about yourself, and then we'll just dive right into the projection field?
I would love to. So I currently live in Costa Rica. My partner and I have a little hostel that we run out here. And that is like a fun project that we're participating in. But for the last, it's so interesting how many years, the last 12 years or so, I've been learning and practicing and playing with energy modalities, Reiki, chakra balancing, going deep into yogic practices and like connecting with my body and having that unlock gifts I didn't even know that were there. And then as I've progressed on my journey, all of the different things that I spent time learning kind of congealed into one thing. I was like, oh yeah, it's all just kind of pointing at the same thing. Like wellness and wholeness is something accessible to us. It doesn't really matter how you're arriving there, whether you're doing Reiki or dancing or jumping in the river. It's almost just the intent that you desire to be well. And then the magic of going to someone else, because when two or more are gathered, there I am. So there's something about being witnessed in the desire for healing that's very powerful. And on topic for what we're doing today, what I observed was the most healing thing that I could ever offer anyone was being neutral in my own being and not projecting, not holding a judgment, but just finding the neutral observer within my being. That way, as things are coming up, whether positive or negative, they're not getting charged more by anything. And so that's kind of what I do. I offer a space of neutrality and observation. And something that's so interesting in that is sitting in neutrality and observation, my psychic senses are looking at the energy field. And I'm like, oh, okay. So there's like, as you're speaking, this color's moving around your head. As you're telling this story, like your field turned red, like all these different things that are happening, but doing it non-judgmentally and in neutrality. And also just being able to say, hey, when you were telling that story, did you notice this was happening? This energy was happening. And from that perspective, we're able to like untangle knots, because it's taking it from being really zoomed in, really personal, to a little bit zoomed out and just being like, let's talk about the actual energy we're working with, which is resentment. We don't have to point it at anyone, ourselves or other people, but we can say that resentment is present. So now what do we want to do?
I love that. Thank you so much. Right up my alley, Suri. Yeah, right. And I love all the work you've done with polarity mapping, and because I know we go back a few years with that too. And because for me, it's like you and I kind of speak, we say the same things in like a different language, a little, actually same language with slightly different things. But like you said, all of these different modalities all point to helping all of us like come into more of that wholeness, into more of that being too. But the way you did that polarity mapping where you like, what's good about this, what's bad about this, and then finding a way to like, alchemize it together and come into that neutral space. And it's such a much more pleasant way of being. It's calmer. It's more peaceful to kind of come into that space. And then, like you said, all of that energy you were using to, reinforce how you wanted to see it as good or bad, then becomes available to you to create something new. And that's kind of where bringing that charge back in. Is that correct?
Yeah, creating the third energy. So like as the two polar opposite things are allowed to become in union, I guess, then it creates a third energy, which is spiritual gold.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. And then
Kind of,
the art of being able to hold duality in our own body. I think that's a really big aspect of what we face as human beings, is that we can go to war internally with topics, right? We may really love something, but then at the same time think it's really bad. And so then the part that loves it and the part that thinks it's bad are going at each other within. And that creates an internal war, if you will. And when we can create the third energy of it, allowing both to exist simultaneously, it does release attention to a degree.
yeah. There's a lot of energy that goes into keeping, that tension, to keeping things kind of like repressed and suppressed, and how, we think we're supposed to be for everybody else. And I know that our friends in our community that come on the show a lot, we're all kind of in the same group of like, working towards being more authentic and being more free and loving life more too. And this is where the projection field can kind of come in. And so how do we play with it?
How do we play with the projection
What
field?
is it?
So
It's the energy field around us, the projection field. It's our mental space, so to speak.
essentially, yeah. So if we consider that all is mind, not the brain, of course, but all is mind, all is consciousness.
Yeah.
And as I get to express myself here as Suri, I have my own unique and individualized expression of the mind. And with this, I can create so much. In fact, it like my body exists because of my mind or my consciousness. The experiences I have on earth happen because of my mind, my consciousness. Both the things that are conscious to me, but especially the things that are unconscious to me, right? The things that I've compartmentalized, or like you were expressing earlier, how we can kind of repress things. And I'm honestly always impressed with the human capacity to create psychological barriers between how we perceive ourselves and what's actually going on inside. It's really impressive. It's strong. And as we are playing with the projection field, one of the things is to start to understand that just us being somewhere, we're projecting constantly from our own filter of experience, belief, consciously and subconsciously. And so are all the people around us. And the projection field, it's all of the things we think, feel, believe, expect, also emotions that we have, memories, all that stuff is existing in the electromagnetic field that we're living in. And as we're moving through the world, we are projecting our light, our consciousness onto all that we're looking at as we observe it. And as we do that, both consciously and subconsciously, we're projecting beliefs, ideas, opinions, experiences, and emotions. And now, one of my favorite things about working with the projection field is that it's incredibly helpful for interpersonal relationships with other people. Because the moment that I understand that I can't possibly perceive reality 100% correctly, it's not possible, not from my individualized state as Suri. And the more maybe emotional I feel, then I'm even less perceiving correctly. But I'm perceiving myself probably, I'm like, okay, I know I'm mad, but now I'm seeing a lot of chaos outside. And I wasn't noticing that before. So as we're moving through the world and we're projecting ourselves, this is what can elicit from life and other people certain kinds of experiences. Because we are subject to each other's projections, right? When we're playing in relationships, especially the closer someone is to you. So an example I'd like to share is a while back, I decided I wanted to stop using the word friend because I was like, whoa, that is so loaded. Because I have my own experience, definition, feelings, emotions about what a friend means and how I expect someone to show up who's in the role of friend. And Jennifer, you and I don't have the same experience of the word friend. So potentially, as we're becoming friends, all of a sudden you have all these new expectations of me, and I have all these expectations of you, and I find myself disappointing you. I find you're irritating me in this way or this way. But if we really dissolved it and we said, if Jennifer wasn't my friend and I was just looking at her as a being, none of those things would have bothered me. But it was the moment that I cast you in the role of friend that more of my projection field started to intermix with how you're showing up in my world.
That is super interesting. I love how you articulated that and expressed it too. And I think about like how you were saying how we perceive ourselves, and then it's also how we perceive each other to be. The word projection and reflection and mirroring is getting thrown around all over the place. I'm just not sure if it's always. I feel like sometimes it's being used a little bit as a weapon now, which just feels a little inappropriate, like, because that's not what you're talking about too, because sometimes somebody could reflect something back or tell us something that may be something we could indeed look at or perceive and say, oh, well, yeah, I didn't see that about myself, or I didn't want to see that about myself. But if it's there, let me look at it without judgment, because this could be an opportunity for growth. Would that be correct as well?
100%. So I think something that comes up a lot on our spiritual journeys is the concept of discernment in general. Hi, Mary.
I know Mary's here.
um, oh, Patty, I'm sorry about your 4-decade friendship.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. So sorry
Yeah.
about the heartbreak. That's really hard. 40 years. That's really, really hard. So all of our love to
I'm
you.
glad you're here, Patty. Maybe we can clear the projection
Yeah.
field.
Yeah. There we
um,
go.
I think on our spiritual journeys, discernment is of such a high value because we're all intuitive, right? And some of us have been
Yeah.
practicing with our intuition for a really long time. And so our intuition is sharp and good. And we're still vulnerable to projection. So sometimes we think we're perceiving something intuitively, but we're actually projecting, right? And in those kinds of situations, discernment is very powerful. Hey, what is this? Am I having like a previous experience come through me and project onto this experience that it's scary? Or is my intuition telling me that this is scary?
Yeah,
And
that's a really good point. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, go
Finish.
ahead. I would love to hear
Please.
you.
Oh, okay. Oh, I was gonna say, because a lot of times we say, trust your gut, trust your intuition. I hear that along, and most of the time it's true. But I have sometimes clients that come to me and they're like, I need your help because I can't trust my own intuition right now, even though I know I am connected. And then the same thing happens for me, where there are times where you are so certain that something is true and that you're intuiting it correctly and you're perceiving it correctly. And this is where I can say that there is a part of our consciousness, perhaps fear based, that will really try to convince us that our logic, our reasoning, and our intuition is just all on point, only to find out there's a whole nother reality being at play. And maybe ours was okay, we perceived it, but there was a whole nother reality on the part of who else this might concern or the situation. And we didn't have it right because we didn't have all the knowledge and all of the pieces too. And I know that could be a little disconcerting for some people, like, what? I can't always trust my intuition. So how can we get more towards where we can trust our intuition more, where we can keep a more clearer perception field, so that we don't have those situations happening as much where we go, oh no, I really got that wrong. I was convinced I was right. I was convinced of it. And now it's not what I thought I was. Oops. And then
Mhm.
whatever actions we took as a result of that?
Yeah. What a great question. For myself, I feel more trusting of my intuition the more that I'm aware of my own projections, whether positive or negative. And getting to know, like, as we go on these spiritual journeys, I think it's really nice to hang out in the spiritual realms, if you will. But when we do that, we're bypassing the fact that we are so human and that we have feelings, emotions, expectations, desires, all of these things, they're happening in this human field. And so as I come to understand that functioning of me better, then my intuition is clearer. As I also work to understand my own projections of other people or situations, that helps me to be able to discern, oh, yeah, like I know this part of me that when I see this kind of person, I am mentally very critical and judgmental of that kind of person. And so I know that when I see, like I'll just give an example. Like I know it when I see a man in a business suit with like on his phone, like I go into a lot of projection. I'm thinking, oh, like you must be dead inside. But like I don't know that. That's not true. But I'm aware that I think that and that I have like I sway toward that side, assuming that anyone who's working, forgive me, you guys. Now, I'm revealing myself. Having this concept that people who are able to work in corporate jobs for big corporate companies that are doing things that are harmful to the planet, like you must be like not okay in there. But that's not true. I've met many people who work in corporate situations who meditate every day and go to yoga and like really take care of themselves. So just being aware that I sway toward that can help me realize that, hey, when it comes to these kinds of certain situations, I already know I'm not clear. And that's why I also think it's really important we have good mirrors and reflectors around us that we trust. So that if I am feeling like an intuition coming up and I can go to Jennifer and be like, okay, listen, I can't tell if I'm picking up intuition or if I'm projecting all over this situation. Will you hear me? And I think on the spiritual path and also being human, we absolutely need each other to puzzle together the image of what is actually potentially happening here in reality.
Yeah,
I love that
I
analogy of
yeah.
the elephant when they have all the people blindfolded and everyone's touching a different part of the elephant and they say, oh, I think it's a tie or I think it's this. And then they take the blindfolds off and everyone was touching the elephant. I feel like that's all reality is. And our projection field is basically the limited space that we're allowed to touch of this big, grander thing.
Right. It gives us the experience of duality and contrast so that otherwise we would just stay up in spirit world where there isn't that. And it's a whole different dimension there. But I've used when I've taught classes before, as like often I would just hold up a pen like I have here and I'd be like, I can't prove that anybody sees this pen exactly the way that I do. They may have manufactured thousands of pens just like this. It doesn't matter how they measured it, how that precise they got the color of this red. I can't prove anybody sees this pen the way I do. And I think about paint parties where everybody's painting the same vase of sunflowers and they're all totally different. Is it talent or is it perception? The way that are seeing it through our eyes, which are also filtered through rods and cones. So we're tuning out all kinds of other stimulus in the visual field, right? And then, what we hear and then all of our experience too. So it's interesting how we are so uniquely individual. And then at the same time, we're all sharing in this big oneness of variety at the same time. And the second thing that you said is having a person that you could trust to help mirror back. And what came into my awareness was maybe finding someone that could help ask questions that could really and not be afraid to maybe tell you the truth or sugarcoat things too. Because I might really love it if I went to a friend who say would help to reinforce my perception.
Yeah, confirm it
But
for you. Yeah.
confirm it because maybe they've been in a similar situation and they can relate to how I feel or they see things in a certain way. But I perhaps might be better helped by somebody who would see it a little bit differently. Oh, I didn't quite see it like that way. And either one could end up being correct, but I know it gets to be confusing, but we don't have to get this all in one day, right? Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah. Well, I did want to share this as
Yeah.
far as projection and playing with the projection field. So we've all been in the presence of someone who views the world really beautifully, right? Who has taken time, or maybe it's natural for them to like look at a tree and be like, oh my God, I love it. It's so beautiful. And when they look at you, they think, oh my God, I love it. It's so beautiful, right? We all know what it feels like to sit in the presence of someone who uses their projection field in a very loving way. And when you're in their presence, you feel like you have value, you feel beautiful, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. Likewise, we all know what it feels like to be in the projection field of someone who has a more negative experience of the world, of themselves, and of you, and how that feels, right? How actions, words, and deeds can be interpreted and twisted into something very ugly. And you're like, whoa, how could you even think that my motive was so dark? That's interesting, right? And so, for each of us as human beings, taking time to understand when we're looking out in the world, how are we experiencing that? How is my experience of looking at the river, looking at a tree, looking at another person? And what can I do within my own being to allow my perception of it to either be neutral or edging toward, wow, it's incredible, it's beautiful, it's amazing. Because as we stand in front of each other, um, allowing neutrality, or even just allowing ourselves to see someone else as beautiful, that unto itself is medicinal and very healing. And there's this concept of like the mirror of the heart. So we're always reflecting each other. We're always bouncing stuff off of each other. Your projections, my projections, what's reality, what reality is, all these things. But when you can truly be in front of someone and both of you are reflecting from the heart, it's nearly impossible to start to assume that someone is bad or that they're trying to hurt you or these different things. And you can begin to elicit from everyone around you a space where they can pull out the most beautiful aspects of themselves. And so we get this opportunity, since we are all projecting, we're all humans, we're all taking past experience, emotion, all these things, and allowing them to somewhat narrate our experience. We're each responsible for maintaining that projection field and gardening it. Catch ourselves. If I'm caught in a lot of judgment about someone or a type of person, I know that's not real. So I need to address it and weed that garden so that when I'm interacting with those kinds of people, they don't feel my negative projection. I don't even want to share that. And so, coming from the heart as best as possible, holding yourself and all that you see as the observer of reality in a loving state. And if it's hard to get to a loving state, start by aiming for a neutral state.
I love that so much. And I know when I'm in that loving state or even the neutral state, I feel so much more spaciousness. I feel so much more in my higher self and my higher awareness. It's a beautiful, more blissful way of being. So, and I think that bliss is the gold, the spiritual gold that you talk about. And so if we're willing to be brave and courageous and, go on this journey of really questioning things and like you said, catching ourselves and being willing to be wrong, and that's not a bad word. Just be willing to be like, oh, it's not quite how I thought it would be. Ed was talking about with texting, how we get it so wrong because we don't have the tone of the
Uh-huh.
text. And it's so easy to misperceive what someone's saying to you without the tone,
Mhm.
without the facial expression. So we all gotta be, communicating more on the phone and face to face and you know, we try to use our emojis, right, to help us with that too. But it's worth the effort. So it feels like it's kind of like two part. One is, or maybe three part, how we perceive ourselves, and that's something to work through. How we're perceiving each other, and how we're perceiving, the world or society, and those kinds of things. Like it's a lot to hold at once and work through step at a time. Right. Mary is asking about, do we have different size projection fields?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Yes and no. Um, I really enjoy human design, actually. Human design breaks it down a little bit. And there's a, a character or an archetype called the projector. And according to human design, projectors do have larger projection fields, meaning that when they are looked at, whatever you have as projections that are subconscious, you're going to transfer them almost immediately to the person that the projector that you're looking at, because there's something in that person's field that's like almost absorbent of projection. And then the more unconscious or asleep you are, you may develop pardon me, I almost cussed, a humongous projection field, just like huge, because you've separated your face. Like literally, you put a huge mask on and you're keeping all of this stuff in the subconscious behind you. And it's coming out like an avalanche onto your reality. And you can live your whole life thinking that it's everyone else without realizing, hey, babe, take off the mask and show us what's really in there so that we can actually be relating from a place of authenticity. So, yeah, projection fields do vary.
There we go. That was really interesting how you said, oh, it's like if we haven't, kind of woken up to self yet, that it's this huge amount, it's like this big cloud, almost like we're throwing around to our to
Yeah.
our outskirts. What an interesting way of being. Thank you, Calm. Living evidence that the world is moving to a new spectrum of spirituality. Amen to that. So beautiful. I just want to go back just a little bit, make sure I've said hi to everybody because we've had a few more friends join us as well. Nicole, hello. Thank you for coming too. Nancy Martala, hey girl. She's one of my angel friends from For the Love of Spirit. Let me see here. I know KR Tarot came on. Hello. And then let me see here. Mary is here. Hey girl, hey. And then Ed Odell, tips top hat to you, friend. And Michael Zinn. Okay, I think I got everybody who's come on. And Leanne, hi, everybody. Say hi, Ann, too. And we do have some comments here as well. Let me see here. A couple people with friendships that have blown up. That I do feel like that's a little bit where the energies have been with, a lot of relationship energy because I was looking a little bit into the astrology of it too. So we've been really questioning all of our relationships, family, friendships, partnerships, our relationship with society, with government, with the world, and all of that has been coming into play. I'm not too surprised then that we've got a couple of people coming on saying that, they're grieving, friendships that have come to completion, shall we say. And let me see here. Michael's saying awareness defined, and Melinda's here too. Melinda says, hello, Melinda.
Okay. Hi, Melinda.
So thank you. So, and then Mary saying more heart mirrors. Yeah, I love that too. I know when we can be in that space where we can just see the light in everybody behind the personality and remember that our true self is that light behind the personality. Like we save ourselves a lot of suffering. So and I feel like that's where we need to go, is that the more we're hi Annie, good to see you. The more we're holding on to our projections, our perceptions, our beliefs with so much energy and so much charge in a way that is negatively impacting us or making us feel negative emotions. And negative isn't bad, but we can cause ourselves a lot of undue suffering with that too. We relieve ourselves of suffering when we can move into that neutral space, or even into that loving, holding all of it space too.
I have
Ed is saying, go ahead.
I have an opposite. Please. I have an opposite one. So yes, going in, zooming way out and remembering that we're all beautiful beings of light and our souls are incredible can help alleviate a lot of pain. Something I think there's almost a danger in it when we keep giving a human the benefit of the doubt, understanding
all the time.
We're just like a being of light, right? We can allow ourselves to be like a doormat, right? Because in this human body, I'm vulnerable to actions, words, and deeds that are disturbing and disgusting. And I think all of us are, right? Especially depending on our state of survival or thriving, what kind of emotionality we're in, what kind of past experiences we've had. And so being able to witness, like, okay, I'm watching a pattern emerge from this human being's behavior. And yes, they are a being of light behind that, but my human here on this plane is in so much pain when I interact with that thing or that person. And
Yeah.
so I think it was Ed saying boundaries on this human experience, in this human experience, are so important. And I also feel like when you were talking earlier
Yeah.
about having good mirrors, there's this concept of be surrounded by people you trust. In case you are showing up in ways you can't see because your psychology's hidden it from you, maybe you're showing
Yeah.
up in a really like not kind way. And you do need someone you trust to be able to say, hey, Suri, this isn't turning out well. It always makes me feel like this. Then I get a chance to authentically be like, oh, I should examine that in myself. The more that we can do that for each other, we're helping each other weed our gardens. And working together to be like, hey, I noticed that this keeps happening and I feel hurt each time. Is this something that we can address? And kind of get to the bottom of how much is it my projection? How much is it your projection? How much do I need to accept? And how much can we change it?
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. It doesn't mean staying in consistent situations where you can see the patterns, but once you see those patterns and you know they're not working for your highest benefit anymore, then we can make those changes to our life that we want, so that we can change those patterns as well. Some those changes may be just removing yourself for the situation. They may be just that internal inquiry of what in us is helping us to stay. What can we look at? How can we develop more of that boundaries, self-love, self-acceptance within ourselves, so that we can start creating better ones, newer ones. And then like you said, having a team, even with someone who may be not afraid to hurt your feelings, to say, hey, did you see that you just did that, or that you just said that? Was
Yeah.
that really what you intended to do? For sure. Ed is saying not surprised at this, seeing we have two universes coming together at the moment, or have started. The energy is changing, the shift. There's a shift that's taking place. Agreed. And I think people are waking up to their personal boundaries and not allowing others to manifest the energy to them. And I love the word boundaries better than protection. For me personally, protection feels like something outside is stronger than me, or I have to be afraid of something, so I need to protect myself and create like this barrier. Boundaries feels empowering to me. This is my personal. But that said, I think people should protect people. You know what I mean? It's like, we can have each other's back, and help each other stay out of danger. Pair up in certain, if we're going to certain places. So I love that too, where we're helping each other out. And then Ed is also saying about the boundaries right now, not allowing what was to be while we make ourselves better and do our shadow work and our self-development. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. Colin is asking, Suri, what do you think humanity as a collective whole is projecting?
Oh my gosh, what an interesting question, which I don't feel like I can answer in this moment. But I will say that I often contemplate how many of us are mismanaging our creative imagination, which is part of the projection field. When we either are using it ourselves to generate images and to generate like beautiful concepts of things, or our creative energy is being used against us. And that happens by when we're consuming a lot of news and imagery. Something that astounds me is how much money is spent every single day generating images to manipulate the human population into wanting something or not wanting something, or to make something look good that we didn't used to think was good, right? So I think there's a huge mismanagement of our creative energy. And I'm not talking about making music or making art, but like the ineffable, intangible energy within us that creates through image, thought. Every time you think, there's a particle that emanates from your body that then interacts with all of this that we're looking at. And to have so many of us recklessly mismanaging this energy and just letting rogue thoughts just kind of fly around all the time without understanding, no, that is building the collective dream that we all share. So I might say the greatest thing that's happening right now is that the majority of people do not understand how much power they have with their mind, their projection, and their capacity to imagine something different for us as a whole.
Okay, I'm working with that. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Yes, I would love to. So we create on so many planes of existence. We create with our words, sound. We create even just by looking at something, we're creating. When we
Yeah.
think, or the images that flood our mind, like images pass by our mind on the inside all the time. We've got like a little projector thing going on inside our head. And if we more regularly were taking time to allow like really beautiful images to fill our mind. One thing that I focus on a lot is with water, because the water on the planet, it's not in good shape for the most part. And I could get really down and read a lot of articles about how like the common person cannot drink water from where they live. And I could go down that rabbit hole and feed that beast. However, I choose to spend time imagining that everyone has access to clean water. And it's just a place to start. If I can imagine that it's possible, and then Jennifer imagines that it's possible, everyone who is listening begins to imagine that it's possible that everyone has access to clean drinking water. Imagine what could happen in a very short period of time.
Now I got you on that one too. And you know me, I can imagine everybody. I can do that for sure. And it really resonates because when we look at problems in the world, if we allow ourselves to personally suffer over those problems, we add more suffering. Okay. I want to say hi to Spiritual Vagabond, who's just joined us here, and Jess, nice to see you. And there's our girl, Shannon. I know, Shannon, we were just talking about that too. People you know have the clearest and strongest boundaries. Yeah, that's awesome, Shannon. Shannon will be back very soon too. In a couple of weeks, she'll be back on Embracing Infinity. So we're excited about that. So there we go.
Sorry,
She's back.
we had a guest.
All good, all good. We love guests, you know. If a cat wants to stroll on by or a kid wants to, you know, play in the background, that's all good. But what I say is, like, if we look at the world's problems and we allow ourselves to go into like extreme despair and suffering over the problems, I don't think we're actually helping the problem. We're just adding more of the suffering energy into the problem, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't mean we ignore it. It doesn't mean we're, you know, just going invisible to it. I do all of the things I can do to add something positive, like with my charitable work that I do through my services and my other events and things that I do too. But if I look at it of what's possible, of what we can do, it's a whole nother energy. And when you started talking that way about imagining people with clean water, I could feel the whole energy just shifted and changed and just opened up. It felt creative. It felt creative. Whereas when right before that, when you were talking about, if I just ruminate over how bad the water is, that just felt kind of dead and heavy and dense. Like I could feel the difference when you shifted into that, which is really quite beautiful. And it reminds me, I love to tell this story. I'll make it really, really quick. Back on Oprah Winfrey, back in the day, many, many years ago, they were interviewing this young man who was in his, I think, late teens, and he was raising money for Africa for mosquito nets and wells. And he was standing up there just smiling ear to ear, full of light, full of sparkle. And he was just talking about, yeah, if we raise this amount of money, we can build this amount of wells. And if we raise this amount of money, we can buy this amount of nets. Look at all we can do to help these people live a better life. And he just sat there smiling. And it just struck me, because this was, decades ago, right? It just struck me as so interesting, because everybody else would be like, oh, these poor people, right? And it's wonderful to have empathy. It's wonderful to have compassion, but I could see the difference in it. It's like I made this mental note. And I really do feel like if we put energy into what is possible and then do what we can, and then not let it get ourselves down to where we can't live a happy life too, I feel like, and if we indulge in our own suffering to a point to where we're not able to be happy and feel joy, like, how does that help us, right? How does that
It really
help us?
doesn't.
So we have a right to be happy and joyful in this world. And I don't think it's wrong to feel happy, even if there's things in the world that could be better, a lot better. I get that. But does our happiness give other people permission to be happy? And would that raise the level of happiness energy versus suffering energy? It makes sense to me. What are your thoughts, my love?
Yes, 100. And that's the same thing with projection and playing off of each other's
Yes.
feelings. Because when I work on those aspects in myself of like, yes, like my priority is that I feel well. I'm not even edging toward I feel happy. I feel well. I'm in the well.
Yeah.
And as I can cultivate that and generate that in myself, then it starts to be mirrored and reflected. One, also when I'm well and someone else is not in the well, I can hold space to a degree for someone to find their way to the well. But I do think there is something about holding your frequency and setting boundaries so that you can maintain the frequency that feels well to you. And then emanating that out and projecting that out, it becomes contagious. So absolutely, I think we can go down some really deep rabbit holes about all that is wrong in the world. But the truth is if this is a world based on polarity, for however bad things are, we understand there's an equal amount of the good of that as well. But where are you looking? And I'm not saying to deny that, frightening and scary things are happening, because that also doesn't serve us. However, when we observe something that's disturbing, scary, or that's bothering us about the world, rather than feeding your creative energy into more of it, take the opportunity to say, what can I begin to use my creative imagination for that can generate images, feelings, thoughts, words, and deeds that start to move us away from that energy? Because I know that I'm contributing and I'm responsible for the creative energy that I'm emanating toward any situation or place.
I love that. Shannon is adding the energy of the solutions are not the same as the energy of the problems, too. Spiritual Vagabond, we are not doing readings in this show, but you can book a session with Suri if you'd like to, or myself. But if you're looking to do some lovely healing and integration work, I highly recommend her to you too.
Thanks.
So that's lovely. But we're very happy you're here, and thank you, Debbie Ontiveros, for being here as well. And it's interesting, Suri, because there is a point where finally we can go into I like to say the constriction and the expansion. It's kind of part of the heartbeat of life, right? But when we go into that constriction and we're really resisting, and then we finally get to that place where we let go and we move back into surrender to the other forces that are at play, that are beyond our personality's comprehension. We go into that surrender. It's amazing how all of the beauty that we're aware of. So all of that sort of like darkness and the constriction that we're experiencing within, something that's triggered us, or a dark night of the soul, rubbing my nose on that. And then we come out of that, and the extreme beauty that we see with that too. And there is extreme beauty out there. I think there's more. And I know it's polarities and there's equal, but there's something about the beauty. You can destroy it, you can stomp it, it's just going to keep growing back. And that regenerative creationary is on the side of that too. And so we keep evolving, right? So there's something a little extra there that keeps us towards evolution. And I'm not sure if I'm correct about this, but if it was equally half and half, would we actually evolve or change?
That's a great question. I am not 100% sure, but I know we don't have very much time. Something that I've been very invested in.
It's almost over.
There's a really great book called Dispelling Wetiko, and it talks essentially about the darkness in humanity, and that can operate through us and does operate through us, and how it looks and feels. And we could look at it as evil, or we could look at it as an agent of evolution. And if we're looking at from like maybe a soul perspective, we could easily say that all of these really dark, negative experiences may be necessary for the soul's evolution so that it can understand itself from that perspective of maybe darkness or malice. And how, maybe we've lived a life of darkness and malice, and then we come into a life that's like really light and peaceful. And we might not register that in the body that we're in the moment, but our soul is collecting all of this information. And so I'm not sure if on the earth it's like necessarily 50-50, but I will say that with all of the like darkness and heaviness that we experience, the more of us who are practicing alchemy, we're generating it up into the third all the time, saying like, okay, yeah, that is really dark. And as I take that, as I accept that into my being as something that is happening, then I have a higher chance of being able to marry it together with the good things or the beautiful things that are happening, and come in and just keep elevating it to its next highest frequency. But I do think there is an element of some of the darker things that we experience pushing us to evolve. And I'm so sorry, I have to tell you this one. But
okay,
if we consider love and war, right? They're often put as opposites to each other.
Yeah.
But what if at some point in our human experience, our understanding of war has been adulterated? What if love by itself doesn't move? It needs friction. And the friction is war. But like how we create friction doesn't need to be the fighting that we see. But what if we cannot eradicate war from our experience here, because then love would have no motor for movement? But what if we just understood that friction was necessary, and each of us kind of taking a little bit more responsibility for the fact that friction is going to be here whether you want to experience it or not, but we don't have to play it out to that extreme.
Right. I love that too. And part two is like, I've always found the darkness to be my greatest teacher, and I learned to stop being scared of it a long time ago. I just thought, well, it's almost like the light just cloaks itself to be really, badass coach or teacher to you too. And it's really all that which has not been illuminated, and accepted in a certain way too, especially on a personal level within our own psyche and our own unconscious too, something to work through. And denying it, repressing it, rejecting that which is in the dark side of our unconscious mind, meaning we don't know it's there, but it still affects us. That doesn't ever work, so all we can do is learn to see it and accept it and move through it, right? To bring in that alchemy too, right? And that friction, the way that I'm taking that information, where you talk about the friction, it's like the stimulus that we get, right? We're in the love, but then that stimulus, and then we don't know what to do with the stimulus. And I think that's where we get a little bit mixed up. If the stimulus is something that we project, there you are, and perceive as good, based on the situation that's happened, then we can work through that stimulus and we go, oh, this is a good stimulus, what's happening in my body. And as you and I have talked about privately, like, excitement and nervousness are the same thing in our nervous system. It's how we perceive it. And so people who, are, athletes, they go up on stage, they have to do things in public, or they have to, do all this kind of stuff. They've learned to shift their mindset into, this is excitement. This is not fear or nervousness. This is excitement. And so that stimulus, we can learn to, allow it to move in our body without destroying us in a way, or just incapacitating us. And then we can move into a better place, maybe a little bit faster, or alchemize a little bit faster. And then we're doing our part as a collective, right, to help us move into that, closer to that higher percentage of people who are helping to shift the reality. Do I have that right?
Spiritual goal. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
It's like same thing worded a little bit a different way too. But that's, that's the hard part, is we get the stimulus, we perceive it as bad, we project it on the other and blame the other for making us feel this way, instead of just feeling it, accepting it, maybe not judging it, and then it can move through our system better, faster, easier, right? And then
100%.
And then we have more energy than available to us for creating and imagining better water for the planet.
Yes. All of us imagining clean water for all.
We did it.
We did it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Beautiful. I know we're getting to close to the quarter after the hour here, and I want to thank everybody too for all of your comments and shares and for listening too. What do you have? I know we can find you at womanbealive.com, right? That's your website.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to book a healing session, a psychic healing session with Suri, I highly recommend her. You will not be disappointed. And anything else that you've got coming up that you're working on or working towards that you would like to share with all of us?
I would love that. Yeah, so we have a little hostel here in Costa Rica, and it's wonderful if you just want to come and stay and experience. We live in a place called Chiripo, which means land of eternal waters. And there's two of the most gorgeous, clean rivers like running right through here. So if you're interested to come for a trip in Costa Rica, hit me up. We would love to have you. And also in March 17th through the 22nd, I believe. You can message me and we'll double check. But I'm holding a retreat here specifically for people who call themselves healers. My intention is to gather all the powerful healers together, and we can work on a macro scale to the micro scale. I think oftentimes when we're doing healing, we're really working on the micro, one-to-one. But I'd love to get a bunch of us together here in March, working together and using our gifts for example, clean water, and doing lots of other really beautiful things. So with that, you can also message me from womanbealive.com.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Suri. That sounds like a beautiful creation and labor of love that you're putting together. I can just imagine all of that, like all those people coming together and how much beauty you can create with that too. And then any other last minute words you'd like to leave with everybody here, please?
Thank you so much, you guys, for coming and listening and witnessing. And may you enjoy weeding your own gardens. May you enjoy consistently not really knowing who you are, but allowing yourself to emerge in every moment. Thank you also for taking the opportunity to come to Ideas of Neutrality. And also, may we, when we meet, if anybody on this that I've never met before, I hope when we meet, the first thing that we can do is just stand in front of each other and reflect hearts. Yeah.
I love that.
That's all I have to say.
Hearts. Okay. You know, the Care Bear in me is going like this right now. I can do that. I know how to do that, Suri.
Exactly.
Oh my God, I gotta laugh at myself. All right. Hey, Derek, thanks for coming on. And there you go. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Suri, for all of your wisdom that you've shared with us here today. Thank you, Kelly, for taking care of us. She is our producer. We love her. She keeps us all safe here on the Sacred Spiral Network and takes care of us and helps us with all the comments so that we know everybody who's here. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everybody here, for your interactions, your comments, for supporting, for being here, for your beautiful energy. I'm so grateful. You know how much I love all of you so much. Please may all of this love and this creative energy and this divine flow that we have been in today be infinitely multiplied and spread out across our planet and beyond, so that every form of consciousness can feel, knock on the wall, loved, seen, heard, appreciated, cared for. And may we have more clean water, and may we have more clean spaces, and may anybody who isn't finding themselves where they're supposed to be have a loving and healthy place to call home. And please, everybody, live well, love you well, and walk each step with grace. They will take you far. I love you so much. Thank you for being here on Embracing Infinity. We will see you next week. I believe Kelly, is it Kelly? Yes, Kelly's on with me next week. So that's awesome. We're so excited for that too. So we will see you next Friday on Embracing Infinity. And please, everybody, have a beautiful weekend. Hope to see you at Sunday service this weekend. It will be a beautiful and loving divine space to be in as well. So thanks so much. Bye, everybody. Take good care.